Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I Man here from the Block Runner, and today we're going to be talking about our favorite project, EOS. What do you think, I Man?
We can't have too many favorite projects. This definitely, you know what? This used to be my favorite project. Like, I have a deep personal connection to this one, but I've largely been kind of like ignoring it for the last couple of years. Mainly because we've had a lot of things to like fixate our attention on, Decentraland specifically, or, what's going on in Ethereum DeFi, yada, yada, yada. But it seems like EOS is kind of like tapping on the doors of like reemergence as like, a player in the ecosystem.
Yeah, I was definitely being facetious. This is definitely not one of our favorite projects for lots of reasons, and I think part of it stems from like your history with it, because you were deep, huge into EOS back in the day. I mean,
Like a lot of people were, yeah.
yeah, and so was I. We were actually going to use EOS on a particular project early on in those days, and you even went to so much to go to like a developers conference in New York just to see what the latest developments were.
Yeah, it was during the time where like the very beginnings of like the block producers were starting to organize and build communities of their own, kind of like garner support for their, to get voted in, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
There was one in New York. It was going to be like the big block producer for the States. I'm in the States. I'm a big token holder, a big supporter. Let me go meet with the community, see what's going on. Everything looked peachy at the time, big community, lots of hope, lots of promise. But as soon as the mainnet launched, some obvious issues became glaringly obvious. And these are things that are largely predicted. Vitalik himself was saying like this cartel collusion, and it's going to take way too long to kind of break down what leads up to this. It's like the whole delegated proof of stake model, right? Where you have 21 block producers kind of like deciding which transactions get validated, right?
Well, yeah, they don't decide which transactions get validated. One is selected to append the next block.
That's right. That's right.
And then it sort of does like it goes around the circle, if you will. But let's just go a little bit further back. And Dan Larimer, I guess, had tons of conversations with Vitalik back in the day in the Ethereum development days, right? And so the EOS blockchain was a result of the recognition between Ethereum smart contracts and their inability to scale, right?
Correct.
Therefore, EOS, right? Okay.
So like the big proposal is to consolidate into a much more smaller network, right? Still distributed, I guess. 21, I guess they feel like is decentralized enough.
Yeah.
Right. But more like leveraging governance in the sense that to make sure that there's, optimal cooperation, I guess, or optimal behavior among these block producers to not, to not have negative, results.
Yeah.
I guess.
Collusion, right?
Yeah. But see, I think it didn't really work out as well as people were hoping, because now that we're doing our due diligence today to see what is driving this newfound hype for EOS, it seems like largely the same complaints are still being made that they were 4 years ago,
Yeah, absolutely. So the same complaints, which is a big deal because if you go back to those days and you remember the sentiment, it was extremely bullish. And I remember we started the podcast in early 2019, and we were just discovering Decentraland, and EOS had a huge announcement. Remember that? And I think we even recorded it live. I think you go back and actually watch this EOS announcement.
It was actually the same day we found Decentraland. I remember.
Yeah, it was.
Podcast. It was the day they unveiled voice.com, like the big flagship DApp they were going to release, right? They were going to crush Twitter. It was the end for centralized media and like social media.
Yeah.
But it really is just this big giant spectacle they spent way too much on, like for like the, the eye appeal. Like it looked like an Apple event, right?
Yeah. It was we were sitting there, we were like, dude, what is this going to look like? It felt like an Apple event, and then it only lasted like 18 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. And it was totally like total letdown, dude. And it just built more into that sentiment of like, okay, these guys just raised $4 billion from a year-long ICO.
Yeah.
You would expect them to build like one of the most robust, vibrant, like, blockchain ecosystems around, because there's not many blockchains out there with those kind of resources.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
They had a lot of internal issues, I guess, as far as like, funding the right projects. even addressing these core issues that like the community observed from the get-go. Like they knew there was block producer collusion happening. You know, they're demanding Block One to step in and actually do something about it. But Block One took the let's call it the Satoshi route, in the sense that they built this new platform, this new protocol, whatever you want to call it. They put it out there into the world, and they mostly just kind of stepped away.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay, we did our part, community governed, you know, get at it. And, you know, when you set up an infrastructure where like the parties with the most value usually can control and dominate, there's not much the community can do to regulate that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the system that's set in place. So we're still seeing the effects of that today. And because of that, the community is kind of like taking it among their own, like, call it a fork, whatever you want to call it, dude, right? Telos?
Yes.
Like, it's kind of like they're moving on, dude. Like, I think they recognize at this point, Block One isn't as reliable as people want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Block producer collusion problem is bigger than probably anything the community can like address and solve. So I think the best step for this EOS community is to kind of replicate the technology, because it's open source, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Just migrate it over to a new chain, call it Telos. Let's start a whole new governance system. Let's build a whole new dApp ecosystem, and let's see what happens, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, Telos is a fork of EOS, so it's essentially the exact same chain, and but I'm assuming it's just a better community. And the reason why I'm assuming that is because if you go to Telos's website, they have at least 100 different apps running on the Telos network.
Mm.
And and not only that, there was an article, I think, posted by CZ just to indicate what's been going on with EOS. It says EOS loses its largest DeFi project to Binance Smart Chain. And then it says, the quote from the founder of Effect Network, it says, unfulfilled promises to address the many issues that plague the EOS mainnet.
Yeah.
So there seems to be an exfiltration of projects, and Telos seems to be like scooping them all up.
Maybe not all of it.
Well, not all of them, but yeah, for the most part, yeah, for sure.
Like obviously, you know, this DeFi projects has a lot of traction. It sounds like they have some really big clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've chosen Binance Smart Chain, it's starting to become like an obvious choice for a lot of projects, right? I mean, Binance is third cryptocurrency in the world, very vibrant ecosystem, tons of liquidity. You know, it makes sense in that respect. You know, I mean, I think Binance Smart Chain is very similar in design to EOS. So like a lot of these proof of stake chains are, right? But I don't know. Some of them just had better coordination, whatever you want to call it. I guess they had time to learn from EOS's mistakes, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they were able to better execute, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so Telos compares themselves to Polkadot, Tron, Cardano, and Tezos. Mm-hmm. And, you know, over 100 dApps, right? Tron, over 100 dApps. And then there's transaction speeds and a bunch of other metrics that they compare themselves. And, of course, when any project compares themselves to anything, they're always, like, the best, right? But nonetheless, if you look at the market caps for each of these, there's some upside. There's a higher upside for Telos than any other project out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, these are all multi-billion-dollar projects and ecosystems, right? And Telos is operating off of like the same technology of another multi-billion-dollar ecosystem, EOS. But again, see, I correlate what Telos is, like as an analogy perspective, to what's going on with Polkadot and Kusama. In the sense that they're two like sister chains, right, with the same technology, but Polkadot is the much more trusted, I guess, chain. Kusama, I mean, it's equally trustable, but it's much more volatile. I would assume, you know, a lot less unproven. You know, the purpose of Kusama is it's a proving ground for projects to launch their ecosystems there and see whether or not they'll succeed. Then migrate that to Polkadot as like the final stage.
Yeah, you just have to remember that for Kusama, they say it's a test net, but it's not a test net for projects. It's a test net for Polkadot. So when Polkadot, before they, you know, release a new update, they release it on Kusama first. And then all the projects that are on Kusama get to test with the new features, right? The new updates. But
the reason why they do that is because they know if it worked on Kusama, it should work on Polkadot.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Telos is the same tech as EOS. So like,
but I don't think there's an inherent like intent from projects on Telos to onboard onto EOS.
Fuck no, dude. I think it's the other way around. Like, I think that they want EOS projects to offboard and come to Telos.
Yeah.
But the point being, like, you could easily do that because you already exist on EOS.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you align with this project that migrated to Binance, you know, you think the leadership on the EOS, you know, main chain is not good.
Yeah.
That doesn't have a bright future ahead. You have an option here to migrate to the exact same tech stack, and you know, with a supposedly much more improved governance model and community support model.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, come on over to Telos, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's still super early. I think they only listed on Uniswap like a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And they're doing like their liquidity yield farming, you know, token distribution stuff right now as we speak.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a long road ahead, but
yeah, and some future updates is cross-chain smart contract bridges. So we're going to see Talos like interacting with all the chains eventually.
Yeah. Well, like everything is nowadays.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. For sure.
So they recognize like the future of the space is definitely like interoperability.
And see, that's the difference. You don't see EOS talking about, you know, interchangeable like interactions, right? They're not talking about interoperability like all these other chains are.
Maybe they do, but dude, it's so crazy to me, man. Like, yeah, like they were largely quiet for like the majority of the bearish phase of the market. You know, they weren't stepping out and like voicing their thoughts on like, you know, the future. Like I said, they took the Satoshi model, like the core builders of the EOS ecosystem. They just kind of took that seat role, and we're hoping the community can kind of just, you know, galvanize itself and just, you know, make this thing succeed.
Yeah.
It just didn't turn out that way, you know?
Yeah, and check this out. The activity on Talos is 3 times as much as EOS. It's number 1 on Blocktivity.
Yeah, see that I'm a little sketched about. It just seems like too unreal. But maybe it is. I don't know. You know, the potential is there. Like, these could be mostly like spam transactions, you know, not legitimate transactions. But regardless, it's still a good showcase at the end of the day of like, you know, the throughput capacity of their chain. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at all these charts. I mean, they just don't look, none of them look natural, right? EOS doesn't look natural. I mean, I even looked at Bitcoin, and Bitcoin on here doesn't look natural either. So I'm not sure what's going on with the actual like transactions. But with all things being equal, if everything looks squirrely, right? This is Bitcoin. Like, what is this? Right. So with all things being equal, I mean, if we're assuming that there's no spamming or anything like that, these are like equally on the same level. Well, 3 times as many transactions are happening on Talos compared to EOS.
It's true, man. Yeah.
I mean, I'll show you what I mean. It's like if you look at Telos, and it just doesn't. Nothing looks right. I mean, what is this?
Yeah, like flatlined in total, like
dips. Yeah, it's hard to know. But
it is hard to know.
But from just a 10,000 foot view, I mean, it's just more action. Even if it's like spam action, at least if there's spammers in your network, you're doing something right, right? Like otherwise, they wouldn't be spamming the network. They're not going to spend their own resources to spam a network for no gain.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the day, like, yeah, activity, like it's a nice demonstration, I guess, of like the tech ability of what your chain does, but liquidity rules all. You know, that's really what matters. Like how much the actual liquidity is being, you know, transacted within these ecosystems. You know, like that's really the metric that matters, you know, to the speculator market.
Yeah.
Over anything. But regardless, Telos they're making their presence known. The community is doing something about like their dissatisfaction with, you know, how the EOS chain has, you know, rolled out over the last 3-4 years. And there's potential there, man. Like you said, it's 30 million market cap. Who knows, man? Maybe they pull it off. Maybe they do figure out how to actually, you know, do this the right way.
Yeah.
And like, you know, showcase what EOS could have been, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And here's just another example. So this project, following migration from EOS, the Novosphere now officially runs solely on Telos. So it's just one more project. And this happened, what was this? March 30th. So a couple of days ago.
Yeah, man.
So something is happening with EOS that projects don't like, and they're just moving out. I mean, that's
yeah. You would expect the price not to be going up then, right? But the price of EOS is going up. That's kind of the weird thing about this market.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're at a part of the market cycle where like these old legacy projects are they're going to get their turn, right? Like they're nowhere near the previous all-time highs. At some point, the market's going to push them up there, just to kind of balance things out a little bit. It seems to always be the way things work out.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as, Bitcoin rises, it's like the tide. Everything goes up with it. It's just some of them just take some time, like these legacy chains.
That's true, man. And if that's the case, pay attention to Telos because obviously the upside is much bigger.
Yeah, so this is the max view of Telos. And so, yeah, like I said, 36 million market cap. Definitely do your own research. There's a ton of stuff to read on Telos and in its comparison to EOS. So this is just like scratching the surface as to what is actually going on. But yeah, I mean, the upside here is tremendous.
100%. And hopefully EOS gets their, stuff together too. Because, yeah, man, a lot of people really had high hopes for EOS. They were the first ones to really deliver on the premise of like, a next generation scalable blockchain, right? It's just they didn't really address these core issues as far as like, the governance issues up front.
Yeah.
I think they waited too long to kind of address it and like step in. I think like a lot of these blockchain companies need to understand like the whole ideal and vision of like a decentralized ecosystem. It's great and all, but like the process to getting there is much more hands-on than you think it should be.
Yeah.
It's not like this. You create these protocols, these products, and then you just throw them into the ether and hopefully they fucking stick.
Yeah.
Like you gotta put some man work into it first and slowly trickle away from it, when it makes sense.
Right.
And I think a lot of these projects should learn from EOS's mistakes. And
yeah, you can't just build and then just walk away. There has to be some nurturing of the community and the developers in the community to continue like the growth of it. Otherwise, it's just not going to grow because you can't depend on like the masses to take your baby and like actually make it grow. It's just reality has not shown that that's actually possible.
Yeah, agreed.
At least not yet.
There's a lot of infrastructure that needed to be built out before like you could just hand off the keys to the community.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of projects like nowadays the modern era of DeFi protocols is that they understand that that's the way they operate these days.
Yeah.
They might give the community a small role in the governance of the protocol, but largely the teams are still in control. But like there's little decisions here and there the community can contribute towards.
Yeah. That's right.
Once the real incentives are in place, where everybody's aligned in like managing these communities, then that's the right time to step away. But yeah, EOS didn't do it right. Pretty much.
Yeah, and on that note, that's the video for today. Let us know what you think about EOS and Telos in the comment section below. Follow us on Twitter at The Block Runner and also MetaZone.io. Like, subscribe. We appreciate all the comments, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.